I once saw a beautiful refrigerator magnet. It had a picture of an elderly couple sitting on an oceanfront bench, looking out into the sunset over the water. And in the inscription, it said something that I'm never going to forget. Love is not about looking into each other's eyes. Love is about looking in the same direction. A couple is two different entities coming from two different backgrounds, but sharing a common goal. And what holds them together is that they are going in the same direction. But when either one is not focusing on the shared goal, it affects the relationship. Tiferet of Tiferet is a Tiferet aspect of the Tiferet Midah. It is the Midah of Tiferet at its fullest. As I wrote in the introduction of the Tiferet week, Tiferet is a complicated Midah. One of the reasons why it is so complicated is because it balances Chesed and Gvura beautifully for a greater outcome than each one separately. A great rabbi who was fluent in Kabbalah explained to me the Midah of Tiferet and how exactly it is a balance between Chesed and Gvura. And he explained as follows. A father brings his son into surgery, something that looks to the young child like his father's doing an act of Gvura, of judgment, of pain, of suffering. But in reality, the ultimate goal is to make things better. Ultimately, the father saved the child's eyesight, arm, leg, or life. The greatest chesed possible. Rav Shimshon Pincus brings our focus to the Seder plate. The order of the items on the Seder plate is the order of the Sefirot. In the place of Tiferet on the Seder plate, we put the Maror. So ironic. Maror, which represents bitterness, stands in the place of Tiferet, which is the Midah of beauty. How is bitterness the representative of beauty? The answer is the underlying truth of Tiferet. Because Maror, bitterness, is for a greater purpose that might not be seen at the time of the pain and suffering, but there's a reason behind it. There's an emet. Tiferet is emet. There's an emet behind this suffering that a person is dealing with. The pain and suffering, the bitterness, are part of a greater Seder, a greater order. First surgery and then health. First bitterness of Gevurah and then beauty of Tiferet. First pain, suffering, even death, and then something that is much, much greater. Tiferet spins Gevurah into the greatest possible chesed. Even Maror and death, which is the same numerical value as Maror, are prerequisites to bring something greater, like a more beautiful Olam Haba. On each of the 6 days of creation, God saw the creation of that day and saw that it was good. But on the 6th day of creation, God saw all that He created and it was Tov Me'od, very good. What was created that was so good on the 6th day that it was not just good, but very good? The Midrash tells us what was created on the 6th day that was Tov Me'od. Death. Death is considered very good. What else was created on the 6th day that was Tov Me'od? The Midrash shocks us again. Pain and suffering. That's also Tov Me'od. What else was created that was Tov Me'od? The Midrash tells us. It shocks us a third time. The Yetzer Hara. All these are considered, in God's eyes, very good, and all were created on the 6th day. What? Very good? How can Yetzer Hara, pain, suffering, or even death be considered very good? Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch explains that when we look at the occurrence of death, pain and suffering, or the Yetzer Hara, we look at it in the present, then it does not look good at all. When we step back and we see a bigger picture, that this is all part of a plan, then we see beauty, we see Tiferet. When we step back and see it part of a whole, an order, then it is beautiful. This is the reason why the night of the Pesach is the night of the Seder. because it shows how there is an order, a seder, to everything that happens to us. And how God in His relationship with us has a plan, a purpose, an order of how things are intended to turn out. And even if we are at the beginning of the seder, at the stage of being slaves, but that is just the beginning of a seder that ends up beautifully. And there's a seder in order and an underlying truth and reason to all the things that God brings into our relationship with Him. Without death, we don't value life. Without pain and suffering, we forget that this world is just a stepping stone to the next. Without a Yetzer Hara, there is no reward for spirituality because there is no fight for it. This is the reason, the tiferet, the reason, the emet behind these things. Without maror, without the bitterness of enslavement, we would not have merited becoming God's firstborn. And this is the avodah of the day. The day is tiferet of tiferet. And the work of the day is to examine the truth behind the variety in unity of the relationships in our lives. Tiferet is emet again, and tiferet is also variety in unity. So we want to find the emet, the reason, the purpose, the same direction that brings that love. Why are we in the relationships that we're in is a beautiful question to ask. A real relationship, a beautiful relationship, is when both parties realize that the relationship is merely a vehicle for each party to reach their higher purpose. Just like maror is part of an order for a higher purpose. So to all relationships stay stronger when there is a higher purpose. Love is not about looking into each other's eyes. Love is about looking in the same direction. It is about focusing on the deeper truth that you both share.